Starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations.
On the 2nd of April 2025, President Donald Trump shocked the whole world by announcing this insane amount of tariffs, hitting every country with a minimum of 10%.
Tariffs are going to make us rich as hell.
US President Donald Trump has announced sweeping tariffs on goods imported into the United States from all countries.
Singapore got 10%, Malaysia 24%, Vietnam even worse, 47%. Even islands that only have penguins also got hit 10%. This one single move crashed the global stock market and the world trade system.
US stocks are tumbling.
Well, Chinese markets were the worst hit in Asia.
Looking at the Hang Seng Tech gauge is the worst on record since 2015.
So, what exactly are Trump's tariffs and why is he doing it? How will this affect Malaysia and Singapore? And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. And stick around to the end because I might have found a small loophole that can reduce the tariff burden.
Liberation Day.
We will, in tandem, do whatever it takes to safeguard our economic interests.
The new era will be more volatile with more frequent and unpredictable shocks.
As we are editing this video, we received the latest update. Trump has decided to pause the tariffs for 90 days and double down his tariffs on China. So stay till the end because we are going to give you the latest interpretation of what has happened and how we think it will further affect Malaysia and Singapore. Firstly, let's start with this. What exactly is a tariff? In simple terms, a tariff is a tax on imported goods from foreign countries. Government typically use tariff to protect local industries from foreign competition and earn some revenue at the same time. Remember back in the 1990s, Malaysia implemented very high import taxes on imported car to make Proton seem cheaper in the market. This was how tariffs were used by our government back then to protect our local car manufacturer. So for this same reason, Trump argues that his tariff will protect American local industry because this global open trade in the market is unfair to American industries. But here's the irony. US was the one who championed the creation of global open trade through groups like World Trade Organization. What is open trade? Now, it means countries and businesses around the world can trade with each other with minimal to non-existent tax. So, by introducing such high tariff now, Trump is going against the very trade system America has built over the years. And his reason? The US lost manufacturing jobs because companies found it cheaper to produce in overseas like India and Vietnam when they moved their companies there. Now, this meant fewer jobs for Americans and more imported goods to compete with locally made products. According to his speech on the Liberation Day,
You see the numbers. The numbers are so disproportionate. They're so unfair.
he claimed that other countries has been unfair to America. Now, whether or not do you agree with it? What's interesting is this. Trump claims that other countries like Malaysia have been unfair to America. He said that Malaysia put a 47% tariff on US goods. But the last I checked, our actual tariff on US imported goods was only around 5.6%. So how did he even come up with this number? Now soon, the White House published the way that they calculate this, and here's the formula. This definitely looks complicated, but there are many videos out there that are showing how this is being calculated. You can check online. But here's a quick idea of the concept. Basically what they did is that they took how much a country sells to the US minus how much US buys from them and divide the number by the exports to the US and they just cut the number in half. Now it may sound a little bit confusing, but let me explain. He's simply implying that when US has a trade deficit with another country, this means that US is being taken advantage of, and it's not fair. For those of you who do not understand what is a trade deficit, it means that when US buys more from a country than they sell to the country. And his logic is
because I'm buying more from you, so you earn more money from me than I'm earning from you, so that's why unfair lor.
But is that true? Okay, let me give you an example. Think about coffee, which can't be grown in the US. The only way to get coffee is to import it. So naturally, US will always have a deficit for coffee trade, right? And this concept is called comparative advantage. It just means that certain countries are naturally better at producing certain goods, so they can export it to you and you have to buy it from them. Now, to put it in short, to say that Malaysia have imposed a 47% tariff based on the calculation of trade deficit is definitely an oversimplification of a matter. It is way more complex than this. And it definitely feels like Donald Trump is just simply pulling out some number to try to justify his reasons of putting a tariff on other nations. Alright, so enough of that. Let's talk about how does this 24% that they have imposed on Malaysia will impact us. First, our exported goods will now be more expensive for US buyers. US is Malaysia's third largest trading partner. The products we export to the US will be such as electronics, semiconductor, machinery, medical equipment, rubber, furniture, stuff like that. And with this tariff, aside from semiconductors and certain pharmaceutical items, all of them will become more expensive. So think about it, if you are a US business that has been buying from Malaysia, in order to buy from Malaysia, you need to pay 24% more in tax. Will you reconsider buying from Malaysia? So that could lead to lower demand for Malaysian goods, and this could affect the businesses that are exporting to the US. And since the business are not doing so well, this also will affect our GDP, it will also affect our revenue for our country, because pay less tax when you earn less, right? And right now, if you think, hey, US is not our largest trade partner, they are just one of the largest, we got other people as well that we can depend on. Well, you are wrong. Our export to other countries like China could be affected as well, because this tariff is slapped on all countries in the world, and China is one of the ones that's heavily affected. And this could affect China's economy, and if China's economy suffer, this could mean less demand for Malaysian goods to be sent to China as well. So everything gets affected. There is a very big trickle-down effect. Now, according to the Malaysian Chamber of Industry and Commerce, there's an estimated of 50,000 jobs that could be directly or indirectly affected. To put it in short, we could be staring at a potential economic downturn, mass layoff of employees in different industries. Secondly, our foreign direct investment could also be affected. With Malaysia facing a heavy 24% comparing to our neighboring countries like Philippines, which only got 17%, and Singapore 10%, foreign investor may see this other alternative more attractive. This could drive foreign investors away and decide to build their factory in those countries with lower tariff to protect their profit margin and competitiveness in the global trade. So in short, this could be an obstacle for Malaysia's economic growth. Someone asked me this question: if I'm not in any business or industries that are related with the tariff, how will this affect me? Now, the quick answer is this: you won't be affected in the near short term, but in the long term, you may see less growth opportunity when it comes to your career. You may see lower pay increase because of slower economy, and at worst, you may find yourself being laid off because of a slowing down economy. So short term, not much of effect, but medium to long term, there could be a danger staring at us. Anyway, our Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has quickly stepped in to reaffirm Malaysians that we are not going to be looking at a recession scenario.
However, for now, let me reassure you that the government does not foresee a recession. Our economic foundations remain strong, and the continued implementation of national master plans.
Anyway, referring to the latest video by Tengku Safro where he talked about Malaysia in the face of these threats, he did mention that Malaysia has been actively building more independent trades with other countries away from the US, and those has been growing. So it looks like many countries in the world has kind of been preparing ourselves to deal with this difficult situation by diversing away our dependence from the US. So that's for Malaysia. But what about Singapore, our favorite neighbor? Some say that Singapore is the luckiest because among all the ASEAN countries, they only got 10% tariff, which is the lowest. So that's a good news for Singapore, right? Well, not really. As of the 8th of April, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong did a video to address the whole situation. He even hinted
Singapore may or may not go into recession this year, but I have no doubt that our growth will be significantly impacted.
Soon after that, some people criticized their Prime Minister Lawrence for exaggerating the situation, that it may not look as bad as it seemed. Well, they may be true, but here's what I think. This problem is more than just economy itself. It is about relationship between countries. And Singapore being a small country, relationship between countries are extremely important. You see, Singapore has this standing free trade agreement with US where their imports and exports are supposed to be zero tariff. But what Trump did was simply violating this whole trade agreement without any given notice. So imagine this, if you've got this good friend and suddenly overnight he just betray you without any notice, how would you feel? think about it, Singapore's close tie with the US is not just in the matter of economy and trade, it is also in the area of security and defense. They have this security cooperation with the US, which includes access to advanced military technology, joint training, strategic defense agreement. This ensures Singapore to remain a stable and secure hub for business, even as a small country in ASEAN. Fun fact, do you know Singapore has been US's biggest customer for American-made military equipment in Southeast Asia for the past 20 years? To put it in short, it simply means, how can Singapore trust US anymore in the future? With such dramatic shift, Singapore have to figure out how do they want to navigate in this new geopolitical environment where US may not be the most dependable partner anymore. And that's on the geopolitical front. But when it comes to the livelihood and the daily economics, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong and his team are already responding quickly. According to them, they have already set up incentives in Budget 2025 and set up this new task force to help monitor this uncertain situation to help unemployed workers and affected businesses. Remember earlier I mentioned that there's this loophole in the tariff system? Interestingly, they could be one. Not perfect, but it's able to reduce some tariff. According to this publication by the White House, they say that if a product contains at least 20% of US-made goods, only the remaining will get taxed. So businesses might just start tweaking their supply chain to take advantage of this loophole to lower the tariff that they will be paying. Anyway, to put it in short, both Malaysia and Singapore has to adapt in this shifting geopolitical power. And for all you know, China could emerge as the center of economy for this region. From what I've heard last, China is trying to boost up their consumer spending in the country, and countries in this region may end up being more dependent on China after this. So, with such high tariff imposed on all ASEAN countries, is there a hope for Malaysia's growth? With Malaysia now chairing ASEAN this year, our Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has already taken the lead by gathering the ASEAN leaders to try to fight against this high tariff together. And why is this important? Because ASEAN being the third largest trading bloc in the world with a GDP of 3.8 trillion, if we play our cards right, this could represent quite some bargaining power right there. Just as Trump say,
You don't have the cards right now.
well, with ASEAN, we have some cards right there. And at the same time, Malaysia is not stopping our effort to grow our country. With Johor Singapore Special Economic Zone, it could end up being an area that attracts more foreign investment by giving better tax perks, great infrastructure, easy access to skilled talent. And at the same time, let's not forget, we also have this 1.1 billion ringgit deal with ARM Holdings. Hopefully, this can help Malaysia's semiconductor industry to rise up in the value chain to start designing high-value chips. All these are not just about higher revenue in the long run, but also about reducing our dependence on the US economy. And as ASEAN, it's more important than ever that we have to work together to create lower dependence on US and strengthen each other's economy. Because after all, together, we are strong. Anyway, when the tariffs hit a few days ago, one of our followers actually asked us this question. Why can't we just boycott the US and stop trading with them? Just ignore them. Well, I wish this can happen, but realistically, US is still the largest consumer market in the world. With nearly 350 million consumers, it is hard to replace that kind of demand. Unless another country can step up on that kind of consumer power, well, it's gonna be difficult. But guess what? China has been talking about that. I think there could be a chance that China could replace US as the largest consumption economy in the future. Anyway, I digress. While we may not be heading into an immediate recession, the truth is we must all adapt in the face of such change. Trump has disrupted decades of stable trade policy, forcing the world to navigate in the new and uncertain playing field. Now, interestingly, some say that this may all just be part of his negotiation strategy to make nations come together so he can negotiate a better deal for America. In fact, as we are recording this video, Trump has reportedly been approached by more than 50 different countries to arrange a direct negotiation so that they can find a new way of working together. Some even speculate that he's just intentionally engineering a market instability for strategic reasons such as pressuring the Feds to lower interest rate, to ease US debt payment or boost the stock market. And it's all gonna be temporary. As expected, Trump has paused all these tariffs for 90 days. However, it doesn't mean that it has gone away. It is just a pause. Something is still going to happen, but it comes down to negotiation with the countries. But in my opinion, probably Trump started to realize that this plan may backfire on himself, because soon after he announced the tariff, when America was trying to auction off their 3 years bond, there was a lackluster of demand and the bond market went crazy. Now that he chose to pause it, he has added this one thing.
The bond market is very tricky. I was watching it, but if you look at it now, it's
beautiful.
I guess at the end, he's also quite worried that people won't want to buy US bond, and this will immediately cause a very big problem for the US, because the whole US debt system is supported by their ability to keep selling their bonds. So if that happens, before they can onshore all industrialization, US may go down the drain. Number 2, by bullying their allies and all other trade partners, what happened to US is they are actually giving space and opportunity for China to pick up the gap that US left behind. If US is making it so hard to trade with them, well, this gives opportunity for China to become the big taiko and come in to be the new best trade partner. In fact, China, South Korea and Japan has come to talks together. That has never happened before. He is pushing all his allies towards China, and China is just scooping it up. I believe that's part of the reason of why is he making such a U-turn suddenly. Nonetheless, if he thinks that this can be changed, I believe not so. The day he decided to raise the tariff and cause such an havoc, people already start to realize that US may not be the most dependable global trade partner. It is better off to always have alternatives, just like what he said.
You must have cards in your pockets.
So currently, with stock market crashing all over the world, this could be a great time to invest. But what can you do in this situation as an investor? So if you'd like us to make a video about how to invest in such uncertain times, leave a fire emoji in the comments below. Stay safe, and I'll look forward to see you guys next week.